Okay, hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Abby Leonard. I'm a regular member of the club, and we are very pleased to have Dr. Riko Muranaka here today. She's a lecturer at Kyoto University School of Medicine, and also she was formerly with the WHO. And she's here today to talk about the HPV vaccine and the issues surrounding it, the national immunization program here in Japan. She's also joined by her lawyer, Eiji Fujimoto. So this is obviously a really important subject to talk about, and also for us journalists to understand the science behind it. So just as a sort of brief bit of background before we get started. So the Health Ministry added the HPV vaccine to the National Immunization Program in 2013, but then 2 months later it suspended the recommendations for it after a series of reports of adverse reactions. A task force later found there was no causal link between the vaccine and the reported symptoms, but nevertheless vaccination rates plummeted. Cervical cancer kills roughly 3,000 people each year in Japan, and our guest today will explain that she thinks many of those deaths could be avoided with the vaccine. She's also going to talk about how she herself became a target of the anti-vaccine movement and was sued for libel by a medical professor who claimed the vaccine was linked to a brain disorder. His claims were later determined to be unsubstantiated. But still in July, 63 women filed lawsuits against the government and the vaccine manufacturers, demanding 945 million yen in damages. So she's going to give an overview, and then after that we'll open it up to Q&A. So with that, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much for the introduction. And thank you very much for coming here today. I'm Dr. Riko Nakamura, a journalist, public health physician, and sociologist, specializing on infectious disease and vaccinology. I was working at the regional office of WHO, and especially on emerging and re-emerging team dealing with avian and pandemic flu. And now as a journalist, I cover a lot of virus topics, but for the past year, HPV vaccine issue in Japan is the main topic I cover. I have published probably almost 20 articles, and those articles are based on the extensive interviews with the health professionals, government officials, and doctors, of course, and the patients and their mothers. On November 25th, I also published an op-ed article stopping the spread of Japan's anti-vaccine panic in the Wall Street Journal Asia. I think you have it in your hand. As you know, the introduction of any new vaccine will cause anti-vaccine advocates to make a stance anywhere in the world. However, no country has kept the HPV vaccine in its national immunization program, suspended recommendations for more than 3 years, culminating in a class action lawsuit against that country, except Japan. In April 2013, the HPV vaccine was included in the national immunization program. But soon after, the victims group held a press conference distributing a DVD you are watching now to TV companies at the cost of 500 yen. Images from this DVD were repeatedly broadcast on TV screen all over Japan, sowing the seeds for misunderstanding about the safety of the HPV vaccine that persists to date. In June 2013, 2 months after the HPV vaccine was included in the national immunization program, the Japanese government made the unusual and perplexing decision to keep the vaccine in NIP, but temporarily suspend proactive recommendations for it. The reason for the suspension was in response to highly publicized accounts of alleged adverse reactions. These included seizures, mobility disorders, inability to do simple arithmetic, difficulty in memorizing English words, or remembering the kanji Chinese characters we use. The Japanese Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare established a task force called the Vaccine Adverse Reactions Review Committee to investigate these alleged adverse events. This committee repeatedly concluded they found no causal link between HPV vaccines and professed symptoms, and that the most reported cases were likely psychosomatic. However, due to the indecisiveness of the MHLW to reinstate the recommendation for the vaccines, on July 27th this year, 63 young girls filed lawsuits against the Japanese government and vaccine manufacturers in the district court of Tokyo, Nagoya, Osaka, and Fukuoka, demanding compensations for the symptoms they claim to be caused by the HPV vaccines. I think this is the first class action lawsuit against the government in the world. There is some lawsuit against the local government in Spain, but this is the first one for the central government in the world. The scientific evidence suggests that there are no such side effects that could be called drug injuries due to the HPV vaccines, especially in one study of 70,960 vaccinated and non-vaccinated adolescent girls living in Nagoya. Investigators found no significant associations between 24 alleged vaccine-induced symptoms and the HPV vaccines. Despite this, on March 16th, Dr. Shuichi Ikeda, one of the principal investigators commissioned by the government to investigate alleged adverse events of the HPV vaccine, presented highly misleading mouse experiment data at the MHLW Sciences Research Grant meeting. He also appeared on TBS News 23. This is a screenshot of that TV, a major news program in Japan, the same day stating, "Without a doubt, there are signs of brain disorder. The results clearly reflect the objective findings which are common among the patients claiming such brain disorders." It was only 2 weeks before the HPV vaccines victims organization held a press conference and announced that they are planning a lawsuit in the end of June, the earliest, for the first time. As I reported in the Japanese business magazine Wedge, it turned out that the brain section of growing fluorescence presented as evidence of autoantibody deposition was not of the vaccinated mice, and only one mouse was used in the experiment. As a proof of this, he showed this slide. Can you show me the green? Yes. I would like to explain more about Dr. Ikeda's research. Dr. Ikeda explained that in his study, they had vaccinated mice with the HPV vaccine, HPV hepatitis B vaccine, and the influenza vaccine, and normal saline. He stated that autoantibody IgG deposition was observed only in the brain of the mouse vaccinated with HPV vaccine. It was likely brain was damaged. However, it turned out that image he has presented was not that of the brain section of a mouse vaccinated with the HPV vaccine, but the brain section of a healthy mouse that has been sprayed with serum taken from special knockout mouse injected with the HPV vaccine. This knockout mouse will produce autoantibodies naturally just by aging. It also turned out that the brain slices of healthy mice sprayed with serum from the knockout mouse vaccinated with the other vaccines also showed green fluorescence. But Dr. Ikeda showed a set of brain sections which meets his hypothesis to say HPV vaccine caused brain damage. Interestingly, the dose of HPV vaccine given to knockout mouse was equivalent to 100 times given to the girls, and only one mouse for each vaccine was used in the experiment. As I pointed the issue out, Shinshu University, where Dr. Ikeda worked as Vice Chancellor and Dean of the medical department, announced it would set up a committee to investigate his studies. But a few hours after the university had announced the establishment of the investigation committee, Dr. Ikeda announced he was suing me for libel with a lawyer famous for HIV-related blood product lawsuit and HPV vaccine lawsuit, which were most remembered drug injury lawsuits in Japan. On November 15th, quite recently, Shinshu University held a press conference agreeing with most of the points I wrote, but concluded Dr. Ikeda's actions were not tantamount to data fabrication. Dr. Ikeda was required to demonstrate the reproducibility of the experiment, and given a strong warning, he issued a statement saying, "I am relieved that university proved it was not fabrication or manipulation. I will continue to do my best for the girls suffering from adverse reactions to HPV vaccine." But on November 24th, right after Shinshu University held a press conference, the MHLW then published an unprecedented strong statement saying, "We provided a national research grant to Ikeda's group in order for people to live safe and secure lives based on science. We are truly sorry his inappropriate presentation caused misunderstanding to society. Ikeda's social responsibility is big. We found no evidence to suggest reported symptoms are related to the HPV vaccine." Today, on December 6th, the hearing for my libel lawsuit took place from 10 a.m. in the Tokyo District Court. For the past 4 months since Dr. Ikeda announced he was going to sue me, I have lost a chance to write. Publishers have refused to publish my articles on the HPV vaccine, declined to publish a book after they had agreed to publish it, and one magazine even stopped running my regular column since they don't want to be involved. Medical doctors, researchers, and media who support the issues I wrote are criticized and harassed by the people claiming the drug injuries. As a result, Japanese medical societies and the media have become silent. I have asked Dr. Ikeda time and again to publish more details about his experiment and the original data, but he fails to comply. Instead, he took the scientific argument to the courts. If there are no issues with his data, he would make it public. While the committee investigating Dr. Ikeda's research concluded no fabrication had taken place, they did point out many serious issues with his experiment. Despite this, he said, "I am relieved the committee concluded there was no fabrication or manipulation, and the MHLW should also publicly announce that they found no misconduct with my research." However, Dr. Ikeda's data is not just about one mouse experiment. It is about the consequences it has for 10,000 women and their families who get cervical cancer each year in Japan, and the 3,000 women who die from it. In Japan, vaccination rate has dropped from about 70% to less than 1%. Because of his actions, more young women should have decided not to get an effective and safe vaccine to save their lives. The lives of who decided to become young plaintiffs in the class action lawsuit are also influenced. I would really like to ask Dr. Ikeda if he feels any responsibility for this. HPV vaccine panic is not only an issue for Japan now. Due to the internet media, especially to the social media, irrational fears and rumors can spread very quickly. This is this is actually the video from the Danish victims group. And another Japanese doctor, Dr. Kusuki Nishioka, he's the one who first suggested that the HPV vaccine caused brain injuries, appeared on Danish TV. Danish HPV vaccine victims group exchanged video letters with Japanese victims group, and now the vaccinate rate in Denmark has dropped to about 20% from 80%. The girls diagnosed with brain disorders by autoimmune response to HPV vaccine are under very serious condition. They are treated with large doses of steroids. It's called steroid pulse therapy, and plasma exchange therapy, anti-dementia drugs such as donepezil or memantine, and spinal cord stimulation therapy. Have you ever heard of it? This is an electric current from a metal electrode implanted in the spinal cord to relieve pain. Ireland is also facing the similar problems. I was interviewed by an Irish radio last week and found that journalists who fight there against HPV vaccine pseudoscience are attacked by the victims group called Regret. This year, vaccination rates of the first dose there have almost halved, from around 90% to just 50%. Now, the malice against HPV vaccine has more energy than the sadness and pain of losing health and lives. But I believe the intelligence and the reasoning of human beings will overcome all the irrational and negative feelings, and human beings will move forward with truth and science. And with that, I would like to conclude my talk. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm now going to open the floor to questions. And I apologize, but we don't have a translator, so the questions need to be in English. And if you have a question, raise your hand. You can come down here to the front. Thanks.
Thank you. My name is Robin Harding. I'm the Tokyo Bureau Chief for the Financial Times newspaper. I have a number of questions, but first, could you explain what happened in court today, what the status is of your case, when we can expect a judgment in that case, and just explain a bit more of the legal background to what is happening?
I think my lawyer could talk. This is my lawyer, Mr. Fujimoto. He is my court attorney he's my court attorney, and he was also court attorney for AstraZeneca Ilesca case from 2002 to 2007, and dealt with MedWatch Japan, which supports HPV vaccine class action lawsuit against the government and manufacturers as well. Please start.
First of all, thank you for taking time to come here today. I am Eiji Fujimoto, attorney at law, admitted in Japan and New York, and practice law since 2002. I'm working for Riko Muranaka in this case, which Dr. Ikeda sued her for libel concerning her article in Wedge, which is one of the major business magazines in Japan. Today, we had the hearing before Tokyo District Court from 10 a.m. Today's hearing is the second hearing in this case. So far, the plaintiff, Dr. Ikeda, filed the complaint, and the defendant, publisher, which submitted answer, and also defendant, Riko Muranaka, filed answer to the court. In the first hearing, held in October 11th, the judge asked Dr. Ikeda to submit his brief for today's hearing until November 29th. However, Dr. Ikeda did not submit his brief today. This is not common case in Japanese court. And next hearing will be held on February 14th in 2017. And until next hearing, we will submit another brief, and also plaintiff will submit next brief.
And I think it will take about 18 months, you said. The court takes so long in Japan, and it probably takes
18 months
or more.
Like, yeah.
Thank you. Sure.
Sorry, maybe I'll stay here for a while unless other people have questions to ask. Could you tell me who is bearing the costs of the case, how expensive it has been, and what effect that has had on you? Thank you.
On me?
Well, so you have presumably having to pay Mr. Fujimoto's fees, which I assume are expensive. Normally libel suits are difficult to manage, so I would like to know.
Yes, well, I basically pay by myself from my pocket, but there is actually a group called, how to explain? Can you just show me the slide?
I will explain about that. NPO to raise fund for this lawsuit is established, whose name is, in Japanese, Mamoreru Inochi o Mamoru Kai. It's in English, protect those who protect others in English. Was established by a group of doctors, scientists, and journalists. So they now they are raising the money for this lawsuit.
Yeah. So there are some journalists. Well, basically, medical societies is generally very supportive to me. Whenever I go and talk in the medical societies, like give a talk, they just try to support to this group, or they try to speak out, but they really cannot speak out by their names because they are immediately attacked if they support me or support the claims I say.
Thank you.
Great. Does anyone else have questions at the moment?
Okay.
Would you like to
I'll carry
continue?
on. That's okay. Do you think there is any chance that the HPV vaccine is having serious side effects on these women?
Well, there's no perfect vaccine or drugs in the world, so there should be some 1 out of million cases or something would happen, just like other drugs or even the flu drugs. But as the epidemiological data says in the world, and also in the Nagoya study I just presented, it shows there is no raise in the vaccinated group for specific disease, especially on neurologic disease or autoimmune disease. So for now, the evidence supports there is no causal link between HPV vaccine and all those symptoms.
And what effect does the delay in getting the HPV vaccine have for the girls in question? Can they not get it later in life? At what point does it become the case that the risk of cervical cancer rises?
Well, the vaccination is recommended before they make a sexual debut. So in Japan, it's between 12 to 16. This should be recommended, but it can be effective before you're infected with HPV basically. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. What's your opinion on what the Japanese government should do? You say the Ministry of Health has made statements criticizing the doctor in this case, but they haven't reinstated the vaccine. So what do you call on them to do?
Well, I have been writing to them, writing articles and saying that Japanese government should make a science-based decision, and this policy decision to keep HPV vaccine in IP and suspend it literally for more than 3 years has been criticized by World Health Organization twice already, including the latest one issued last year. And they say that policy decision made based on weak scientific evidence will harm people. That's what they say. So I really hope Japanese government will comply with global expectations, or at least like global standard.
Thank you. And can I ask, what is the specific libel claim that Dr. Ikeda is making? What does he say you have said that is specifically libelous of him?
Okay, actually I explained it in detail in the last press conference, but it's interesting. Can you just please show me the slides with the green fluorescence? I said there are many problems because the mouse used was only one, or they spread actually 100 times equivalent to what is given to humans, and there's so many problems. But his lab was, he was not given many slides with other vaccines with green fluorescence. He knows there was only this slide, so that's why he just published it. And he thought it was the representative of, I don't know, all the results. But I have some, I did interviews, and we realized, and also Shinshu University acknowledged that he knew it's only the preliminary data, and he just presented it in a very conclusive way. So I think that's the point. I call it fabrication, but his label was for, he was not given slides with other vaccines with green fluorescence. That's all.
So you said that his work was fabricated.
In my writing, I wrote fabricated, because he fabricated this data because it does not. With this experiment, he can't conclude that only in HPV vaccine he could observe IgG deposition, because it was even not deposition, it was just spread with the serum with full of autoantibodies. So that's what I wrote, and that's why I think it's fabrication, but he just sued me for a different point.
So sorry, he sued you for... So again, what's the point he's sued you for? He's not... so he's not taking issue with your claim that it's fabricated?
He's not taking the issue that I called it for fabrication. He said I called his experiment fabrication because he presented the data chosen from the several slides with other results. But he said he had the slide, only one slide with one result. That's why he was not doing any fabrication. That was his claim.
I see, thank you. Do we have legal documents in Japanese that set this out in detail?
Yeah.
That would be very helpful if those were
we can send it to you later.
Okay. Thank you very much. I should stop. I can always think of more questions.
Yes, I'm really glad you're interested. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, please come down. Tim.
I'm a freelance journalist here. Tim Horniak is my name. So I'm sorry I missed the beginning of your presentation, but let me get this straight. This doctor is basing these results on an experiment on one mouse. And okay, how many women or girls were claiming that they had suffered ill effects from the vaccine?
The plaintiffs were 63.
63.
But the official data by Japanese government with serious adverse events cases were 186. From 186 cases did not recover from serious adverse events of HPV vaccine. That's what they claim. But there are only 63 plaintiffs to sue the government.
I see. So 186, would that be in line with studies in foreign countries of, for example, ill effects from this vaccine? Would that be similar rate to overseas studies?
Well, it's reported adverse events cases, so we are not sure all of them are really linked to HPV vaccine or not. But even supposedly that it's not very much higher than any of the adverse events rates of any other countries or any other vaccines.
I see. And has there been any investigation by, I think there's been an investigation by the government here who appointed this Dr. Ikeda and his university. Has there been any independent investigation by an independent medical body, such as the Japan Medical Association or something? Have they looked into this?
That's the problem. We really don't have any system or like third body to investigate those kind of scientific injustice.
Isn't this surprising to you after the Obokata scandal at Riken that there's no independent group to investigate claims that may be dubious?
Yeah, well, especially Shinshu University, where he belongs to, was very famous for changing that situation to establish the body to check all the scientific misconduct and fabrication. And even in that sort of university, they didn't do a very enough investigation for his study because he was a dean of the dean of the medical department, or probably the vice chancellor. That's maybe one reason, but basically there's nobody to check it.
Mm-hmm. And just how long has the HPV vaccine been used in other countries such as the United States?
It's been in the world for 10 years.
Okay. Have there been, you mentioned a few other countries like Ireland and some Scandinavian country. Have there been other major cases of ill effects?
Well, the origin is actually from Japan. It's originated from Japan, and the HPV vaccine crisis started in Ireland from last year, and Spain probably last year, and Denmark also last year after Japanese doctor went there and appeared on TV.
Do you think these women are truly experiencing ill effects, or is it a psychosomatic problem?
Well, of course, I can't explore any psychosomatic or real injuries, but many of the cases, at least I see or I know in Japan, are pretty much diagnosed as psychosomatic. And when they can't accept it, they just try to see so many doctors until they are diagnosed it's because of the HPV vaccine or it's neurologic damage. So in the end, they think it's nice to get treated, but they're treated with steroid pulse or even surgery for relieving pain, or given anti-dementia drugs for the girls of the age of 13 or 14. And there are many cases they are really suffering from the HPV vaccine or the anti-dementia drugs. I really can't tell anymore.
I just so what are your expectations now for the lawsuit? How do you think it's going to go?
Well, I hope the court would understand this lawsuit is not unjust. This is not the right lawsuit to do, because he should have defended or refuted my claims in the scientific realm or scientific society. I'm really happy to go to any scientific society and discuss with the experiment in detail, but he didn't do it. So I'm really sorry, and I hope the court will understand this lawsuit is very strange.
And just one more question. Have Dr. Ikeda's claims been published in a peer-reviewed medical journal?
This one, he said he has been writing about it for years, but he has never published it. So but he just stated on a very influential news TV program saying there is a brain damage. He just stated.
So it hasn't been published in Nature or anything like that and been reviewed by peers who would scrutinize his claims. I see. Thank you.
Okay, any more questions? There's actually one that came in via email from a reporter for Science who wasn't able to be here today. So he wanted to drill down on, I think it was some of the language of the lawsuit, but he said it sounds like the key point for the lawsuit is whether you're accusing Dr. Ikeda of research misconduct. So could you just sort of address that? Have you accused him formally of research misconduct?
Yes, I did. I think I did write it in my articles, several articles.
Okay, so yes, research. Okay. Can you comment on how the Japanese media has covered this story once you started talking about it, whether or not it's been covered sufficiently in your view, and whether or not that helps sort of fan some of the flames of concern?
I would say I'm the only voice which is based on really scientific point of view to talk about this issue. There are many other doctors who try to say it, but they're immediately attacked by the people who believes in the drugs injury of HPV vaccine, so they're easily silenced. But I've been writing, and many media too. They are afraid of publishing the opinions of the doctors who thinks this is not the HPV vaccine drug injury. But I would say like 99% of Japanese doctors believe it's not HPV vaccine drug injury. There are actually, I can say like only a handful of doctors who claims this is a drug injury.
So is any of that debate going on in the medical journals? I mean, has there been any publishing on that level, or they just are saying that it's likely not caused by the vaccine? Has anything been published in that?
Well, the big epi study is in Nagoya, and also the government ran another epi study all over Japan, which covered, I think, it's not published. It will be published soon, but in Osaka University, there is a Dr. Sobue's group is doing another epi study, and that one could be bigger. And I heard they just evaluated the rate of the symptoms appearing between vaccinated and non-vaccinated group, and there is no significant difference.
But that hasn't been published yet. Is that right?
No.
Yeah.
But it's a government study.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
And there are so much data from overseas, like many countries like Australia. They have that more than 10 years. They experiment 10 years with this vaccine for 10 years, and they have published many data, safety data, and they're even endorsing boys to be vaccinated. I think it's endorsed in the U.S., although the vaccination rate is not very high in the U.S.
And do you think any of the sort of voices against the vaccine here are encouraged by some of those movements overseas, the anti-vaccination movement overseas? Is there sort of cross-pollination?
I am not sure. Actually, I asked the MedWatcher Japan about if they just really affiliate or do something together. They said they just exchange video letters, that's all. But it's very easy the fears to spread through, especially for Twitter or Facebook. They share their claims, or they share videos of shivering or having seizure or something, and it's just copied again and again all over the world, regardless of what language you speak. Yeah, and you saw the video. It's so scary. I was so scared when I first saw it. I was in overseas. I was with WHO, and when I returned to Japan, this thing started to happen. And when I first saw it, what the hell is this? And but you know, I think many people just think it. The impact of the video footage is so strong, and it can be shared and spread all over the world easily. And I think sorry. Yeah, but since victim's voice is echoing all over the world, I think the scientific journalist's voice also has to be the same. We have to really echo together or affiliate together to publish a science-based articles. Otherwise, people are really harmed. People's lives or health is really damaged, I guess.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Muranaka. I'm Yu Sugihara, an editor of Japanese political magazine Monthly Japan. I would like to ask you, recently Dr. Kusuki Nishioka published an article about side effect of HPV vaccine in scientific reports, which belongs to Nature, and Dr. Kusuki Nishioka and Shuichi Ikeda published another report in Japanese journal Shinkei Naika Neurological Medicine. If you have read these articles, would you please kindly these articles will be make sure.
Pardon?
If you have read these articles, please reviewed.
Well,
about these articles.
most of them are case reports, not really to nothing to draw any scientific conclusion. And I wrote that scientific reports quickly, not really in detail, but it's not really Nature. It's Nature Publishing, so it's just the publisher, and scientific record is not equivalent to Nature editorial. And the evaluation of the mouse is if the mouse's tail is up or down or twisted, that is not really the objective measure to scale. Or maybe the size of the, I don't know the English words, the space in the brain, I don't know how to say it, is bigger or smaller, but it's not really evaluated in the mass. So I think that there is no quantitative analysis. That's the impression I got, but I'm sorry, I haven't read it very in detail. That's all I could say.
Yeah. Thank you for kindly.
And there's the group of doctors from WHO, GACS, which is the experts committee of WHO. Many of the doctors joined in the internal meeting in Denmark 3 weeks ago, and they decided to write a letter to Nature Publishing and also to Scientific because of editorial about the problems in this article already. So I think, I think it's already delivered, and the claims may be published soon.
Okay, anybody else?
If you're interested, I can send the blogs of all the problems in this article. It's problematic, actually.
Okay, we have a little bit more time. Anyone? Could you talk a little bit about the sort of legal issues surrounding this and how difficult it is to file a libel case against a doctor in this way, and why it would be sort of playing out in the courts rather than in the scientific journals? Are there any interesting things to note about the legal process here?
In this case, the main issue is that the fact in the article written by Riko Muranaka is true or not, and in order to prove that the fact in the article is true, we require Dr. Ikeda to submit the raw data of the experiment, and also we will submit the interview record of the researcher we conducted the experiment to the court. And in the coming hearings, the plaintiff and the defendant will exchange the briefs and submit evidences like scientific articles, and we try to educate judge to understand the scientific issues very much, and then the court will have the examination of witnesses, including the Dr. Ikeda and Riko Muranaka, and after that the court will make the decision for this issue, this case.
I think the libel lawsuit has different character in Japan and the US. Probably he could explain it.
Yeah. In Japan, Riko Muranaka will have to prove the fact in the article is true in Japan. But if this is the case in US, the Dr. Ikeda have to prove the article is malice, based on malice, or is untrue.
Yeah, it's a plaintiff's responsibility in the US to prove that the article or that the fact is true or not, but it's opposite here. So it's easier to win the libel lawsuit in Japan when you sue it. So that's the system. So
and also we don't have discovery system in that like US, so it's not easy to get raw data from Shinshu University or from Dr. Ikeda. Yeah.
And I actually suspect when they did Shinshu University investigation, they found no data which does not contradict the result of that one slide. So I strongly suspect the guy who did, the researcher who did the experiment, erased other photos or slides which showed green fluorescence with other vaccines. That's what I think.
And is that person, that original researcher, involved in this current lawsuit? He has to testify as well, or?
If he could come, I tried to interview him many times, but he doesn't answer anymore.
I see. And can you talk about malice, exactly what the bar is for proving malice in this case?
Malice? In this case, I talk about it's only in U.S.
Oh, it doesn't exist here. I see. Okay. Okay, so are we good? Everyone got their questions? Okay, thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it, and thank you so much for joining us today. It was really interesting. Thank you.